With this video, I want to kind of go over 9.1 to kind of help you do through section 9.1 of MyLabsPlus Plus. Let's start with question 2. And I think the first few problems in MyLabsPlus Plus are going to have the same directions where you actually need to graph these system equations using these tools. So the best way to start these problems, I know viewing example tells you to choose some points. So you take the first equation, you're going to choose some points to figure out your here, but you can actually use just your calculator. The best way to do is make sure you get y by itself for both parts in here. So for the first equation, I already to get y by itself, you move the x over, divide by 4. So this is what the equation should look like. So it should be 1 divided by 4 plus x divided by 4. So this is what your equation looks like once you get y by itself. And then you can hit second and then graph because you're going to actually need 2 points. So I'm actually going to write down -1 and 0. And then I'm going to write down 3 and 1. And that's going to be my first equation I'm going to graph. So then I go back to y equals. I can clear this out. And then I'll put in the second equation. So if I put in the second equation here, I'm going to move the 4x over, get rid of this negative sign by dividing everything by -1, and then that way the y is by itself. So then I put this equation into the calculator, and this one's going to look like -6 plus 4x. Then I do the same thing and hit graph. And these points I'm going to choose, again, it doesn't matter which points you use. I'm just choosing some easy ones, 0 and -6. This is my first one, and then 1 and -2. I'm going to choose those. And then once you choose both graphs, I'm actually going to put the first equation back in. And then you hit zoom 6 to see what the graph looks like. You have your blue line, your red line. This is actually what my MyLabsPlus is looking for you to draw both of these lines onto this graph here, and then click check your answer. So let me go ahead and do that first. You click this enlarge tool, and we're going to click this line tool here. And up here, you can see the numbers change as I go. So remember the numbers I chose. I'm going to choose to do the first equation, which was -1 and 0. Then I'm going to get 3 and 1. And don't click until you see 3 and 1. See in the top right hand corner, you see 3 and 1. That's when I click. That was the first equation that I got from the calculator. Then I'm going to click the line tool again. And then I'm going to click the other points I found, which was 0, -6. And then the other one is going to be 1, +1, and then -2. So it should be right here. Then click. So this should match exactly what this line, both of these lines look like in my MyLabsPlus in your calculator. So I'll hit save, hit check answer, and I'm done. So it's pretty much, again, just getting both y's equal to each other. Get y by itself, put in your calculator, grab 4 points, make your graph, and then that's pretty much all that you're asking for. If you're not strong in getting y by itself, then you can do exactly what the example said and just pick a point, random points. If they chose -5, plug -5 into here, solve for y, you get -1. Get a random point again, 3, plug it in for 3 here, you get your answer to be 1. And then you choose these points right here to graph the equation on your line. So that's that equation. I'm going to move over to another example. I think it was going to be number 7 I wanted to do. Yes. So number 7, if you haven't watched my other video of on my slides for 9.1 how to use the substitution method, I'll please allow you to do so. But for this one here, once again, you're going to be doing the exact same thing, but instead of graphing, you're just going to solve, again, get y by itself or x by itself. It does not matter. I'll show you an example what they mean by that. So here are my 2 equations. In this one case here, they took the second one. Because y is kind of already by itself, there's no number in front. It's probably the best one to choose as far as getting y by itself, because This one here, you can do this one also, but you got the 3 to worry about and all that kind of stuff. This one looks a little bit easier to get y by itself. So I move the 5x over by doing the opposite. Then I have to get rid of this negative sign. So I divide this by -1, -1, -1. That changes all the signs. So I should have y equals 5x minus 2 as we do here. So that's going to be what y is equal to. So what I'm going to do is now take this y, 5x minus 2, and put it right back into the first equation where this y is, and then solve by just collecting like terms, distributing, and then figuring out what x is actually equal to. So as you can see, they took this whole equation, they got rid of this y, and plugged in what they found here for the y. So if I distribute 3, that makes 15x. Negative 15x, distribute the -3 into the -2, that makes it positive 6. So this is what we have here. Combine like terms, 8 minus 15, that should give you -7. Move the 6 over by subtracting, then divide everything by -7. We should get x is equal to -2. So once we have the x equals -2, guess what? We have x, but guess what we also have to find? We have to find the y. So we plug in the -2 for x. What is 5 times -2? That gives us -10. Here, -10 minus 2 gives us -12. So my two answers are going to be x is -2 and y is 12. And this is how I'm going to write it in my answer. So for this one here is one solution here. You have to put the comma in the parentheses so you can kind of click in the box and then click this right here. And then you can put your two answers in the two boxes. Or you can just type it in with the parentheses, number, comma, number, and then close parentheses. All right, so let's move on to one a little bit further down. So with the word problems, it's pretty much the same thing. You just have to read the word problems and create two equations. And then once you get your two equations, you do the elimination method. And I think it's listed up here. Let me make sure. Yeah. So this is substitute method. This is here. Then once you do the elimination method, again, all this is explained in my video how to do the substitution and elimination method. But with these word problems, you just kind of create the two equations that's needed to start the process of substitution and elimination. So with this one here, because we're talking about distance, you need to know the distance formula, which is distance equals rate times time. So distance equals rate times time. We read the problem. We try our best to figure out what goes where. Rate is always considered to be the speed. Time is obviously straightforward time, how many hours, and distance is going to be your mileage. For reading the first one, I have D equals 95T. So where do we get 95 from? It came here. Then we're going to read the second part, which is the distance traveled by the slow motorcycle is 320 minus D. So the slow meaning subtraction is going to be equal to what the speed is for this particular one. So it's 65T. So this is where 65 comes from when it slows down. So my two equations is going to be D equals 95T and 320 minus D equals to 65T. So I'm going to put those two equations together. As you see how I stacked them up, I'm ready to do the elimination method. So the D's look like they're canceling out. That leaves me with just 320. I bring the 320 over by dividing. I'm sorry, to bring the 160 over by dividing, and then that should give us the answer of T being 2. And that tells us how many when they'll actually meet. So that's pretty much a general introduction of how to do some of the problems in 9.1.